Okay, for those of you who don't know, these here are a Cornish cross chicken, and they're by no means a laying chicken. These are raised, used for meat. If I'm not mistaken, they're a cross between a Cornish and a White Rock chicken. So you got a small chicken that's made for meat, and then a bigger chicken that helps them grow a little bit bigger and faster. Um, but this is not what the subject of today's video is. Today's video is going to be an update from a video that I did about this time last year involving what it costs to raise chickens this year from little tiny chicks up until laying age. So I'm going to do a breakdown for you on the cost of feed, housing, and everything, just so you can get an idea of what it's going to cost to get started raising your own chickens from start to finish, laying wise. Okay, guys, so it's springtime, which means people are looking into buying chicks again, and it happens every spring, and this year is no exception, especially with egg prices being where they're at right now. This evening I was at the store, and I noticed eggs were hovering right around the $7 mark, which is down a little bit from the week before, but still really, really high. And so that makes people want to get in the idea of possibly getting some chicks so they could have their own fresh eggs at home, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this video is going to be kind of an update from a video I did about this time last year, and I'm just going to sit there and break down the cost for you of what it takes to get a little chick to the size of the guys I have behind me, just so you can start getting stuff like this. And I'm going to tell you, it's more expensive what you think. However, it might not be as expensive or much more expensive than it was this time last year. So let me break down the cost for you. Okay, so I spent the last couple of days going back and forth between World King and Tractor Supply, just kind of looking to see what the price of the chicks are. And I'm going to tell you, chicks are far and few between, and you got to hit these stores on the right days if you're going to get these chicks. Another possibility a lot of people do is to try to order chicks online, but I'm going to tell you, finding chicks from hatcheries is even getting kind of tough this year due to the bird flu pandemic that's going on. Meat birds specifically are almost impossible to find. I showed y'all in the previous shot, I did manage to get some at World King, which has been kind of the typical place people's been able to get them this year. For some reason, you can find them in the stores, but it's hard to get them from the hatcheries. I have found a few hatcheries that have them, and majority of them, with the exception of a couple, really want a lot more for them this year than what they've wanted in years past. So I'm just going to throw this out there. If you're looking for meat birds, which this video doesn't really pertain to meat birds, but if you do, you might want to look at the department stores, because they seem to have a little bit cheaper than what you can get them through a traditional hatchery. But the amount of chicks in my area people are able to buy have went down a little bit this year. Okay, guys, I'm going to hold the video up just for a second to make a quick correction here. Anytime you hear me say limit or available in this area, what I am referring to is the minimum that the store makes you buy, because they all have minimums on what you can take out of the store. They'll let you have probably as many as you want, as long as they don't have a sign up that says limited amount. So just throw that out there. I'm not meaning that they're limited to chicks. I just mean that you have a minimum that you have to buy. Just letting you know that. Compared from years past, but just to keep this kind of level with the video that I did last year, I'm going to start off with letting you guys put this on the count of somebody buying 6 chicks from this first start. I did notice, I think Tractor Supply lowered their limit this year from 6 to 4, and I'm sure that varies from area to area, from store to store. I think it might even have to do with some of the local laws as far as for poultry farms and amount of chicks you have to take with you. But just for sake of arguments, to kind of keep this apples to apples what it was last year, we're going to start you off with having to start off with 6 chicks. And I'm gonna tell you, last year I did my pricing from Tractor Supply, but I have found that at Rural King chicks are a whole lot cheaper than what they are at Tractor Supply. And so I'm going to use our kind of our cheaper price from uh, Rural King and kind of add on that, but it's not going to be as high as what it was at Tractor Supply. Now, keep in mind, the price of chicks varies between the type of chicks you get, where you want pullets, you want a straight run, um, whatever you want, and it even goes down to the breed, because certain breeds will cost more than others. And so, with that in mind, I'm going to put an average of $5 a chick on this, which is what we had last year. But I'm gonna tell you, if you go to Rural King, your cheapest chick's going to be, unless you get a meat bird, it's going to be $5.99. So just keep that in mind, because that's what the chicks that I seen while I was there, the Bantams and the Rhode Island Reds was what they seemed to have that day. They were all $5.99 each. But Rural Kings, they start at $3.99, and they keep going up just depending on what you want. So we're gonna put an average of $5 a piece on these chicks times 6 chicks. That gets you $30. Starting off $30 just to get the chicks. But that's not all. You need a way to take care of these chicks. You got to have food. You got to have housing for them. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but there's a train in the background, because there's a train just about a mile or two down the road, and I hear it going up the tracks. I hope it's not interfering with this video. If it does, I apologize, guys. But right now, chick starter, 50-pound bag, it's going to run you right around $20 a bag for a 50-pound bag, and really you're going to use 50 pounds over an 8-week period for those chicks. So I'm going to leave that at $20. So we're already up to $50 now. All right, just between the chicks and the feed. All right, now you gotta have a way to keep them warm. Chicks, you got to start off. You want them house at about 100 degrees when you first get them, and the temperature drops every week a little bit, which is something you can look into. You can Google how that works. I got other videos to talk about that, and we may even talk about that in another video. But from the 3-day-old chicks that you get at the store, you need to have them at right about 100 degrees. Now, you don't want to put them too hot either, because you don't want to cook them, but you want to keep them warm, because they don't have the feathers on them yet. They're covered with what you call down, and it's just like real fine hair that's there to kind of keep them warm, but it don't keep them warm enough. So you got to have a brooder, and here we have our own brooder. Y'all seen in the previous shot where I had those Cornish crosses in. That one I made, and I couldn't tell you what it cost me to make that. I made it out of some just cheap lumber, 2x4s, OSB board and stuff. But but you don't have to do that. You can use a box. You can use an old tote. There's a lot of things you can use to house them in for a little while, just while you're in the small stage trying to keep them warm. So with that in mind, I'm gonna leave the brooder here for free, just because you can use a really big box or something if you can get a hold of one. But you also got to have some other stuff for them. You got to have a heat source, and you got to have feeders and waterers so they can get the nutrients and stuff they need. Now, you can buy starter kits, which if you've never bought anything before, your first time starting, I would recommend getting a starter kit, because it will have what you need. Now, I'm going to warn you, the items in these starter kits are usually made in China, and they're cheap, and they're not going to last long, but they will get you started and get out the door. Now, Tractor Supply has the one that I like the best, and it's right at $40. Now, Rural King has a one that's 20. That's only like right at $20. I think it was what I had it down for. Yeah, it was right at $20. But it's a lot cheaper set. I don't like it. It's junk. I think I bought that one before, and I just did not like it. But the one at Rural King, it's called Impeccable's brand. It's right at $40. I think it's like $39.99. It's worth paying the extra for that one, and it comes with the little plastic feeders and waterers, and even has the heat lamp and stuff in it. And don't toast me on this on the heat lamp. I know people shouldn't use heat lamps, but it's kind of, but when that's the cheapest thing around and people are trying to save money, I know a lot of people use it. But I have to warn you about the heat lamps. I almost burnt my barn down with a heat lamp, but that's a story for a whole other video. Not going to do on this one. It didn't involve chickens; it involved goats. So that was a whole other story. Um, but you got to have a heat source that comes with the heat lamp. So, but yes, please be careful if you use heat lamps because they are very dangerous. They can cause fires, especially when they fall and get around real dry stuff. All right, so um, feeders, waters, heat lamps. All right, now you got when they get older, you gotta have a way to shelter them. As you see here, I have my own little mobile chicken tractor I made out of a pop-up camper. There's videos on the build I did on this one. I got away pretty cheap on this build. I did. And for shelters, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money. You can use an old tool shed. You can convert dog houses. There's a lot of stuff people can do. But some people don't have that option. Some people live in HOA areas where they're limited on how things got to look and different stuff. And but there are nice looking stuff that you can buy, like at Rural King and Tractor Supply. Now, last year they had good displays out. This year, neither store had very good displays out to show these things. So I'm going to compare with the same one that I used last year, like that Tractor Supply that I liked really well. It was right at $1,000. Guess what? I seen the pictures of it in the store. They had, even though they didn't have the display out, they had pictures of it. It's still $1,000 this year. So that's just like I said. You don't have to use that. You don't have to spend $1,000, $1,400 on chicken tractors. One I have behind me, I built. It was right at about $500 is what this thing cost me at the time. I bought the camper materials to fix it, and you can do that. And there's so many ways you can make them free. So they can cost as little or as much as you want. It just depends on what you want to do and what your situation is. All right. Now, these you also, before you get it, even before you get them to laying age, you got to feed these guys. So we're going to do this video to draw it out for a whole year. So we already had 8 weeks of chick starter. All right. Now chickens, they're going to eat about 1.5 pounds of food per week, and that depends on the type of chickens you have. Of course, some chickens eat more than others. Bigger breeds are going to eat more. Uh, Obviously, meat birds are going to eat a little bit more. It's just how they are. And some eat less. And also, it varies on how you farm it. You know, if you free range, you're not going to have to put near as much money into feed because they're going to go find their own feed. Sometimes you won't have to put much at all, especially in the summertime. But if you keep them indoors, they're like in a barn or whatever, then you're going to spend a lot more on feed because they're not going to have that ability to get the feed. What I do is kind of in between because I'm moving around on pasture. Uh, so I kind of do kind of in between free range and lockup situations. It just depends on what you want to do for that. But just average 1.5 pounds per week per bird. Comes out with 6 chickens, 9 pounds per week, 36 pounds per month. Over 10 months, it's 360 pounds of feed. So we're going to average that to 8 bags of feed. And again, feed something that varies a lot. Depends on what kind of feed you want to get. If you want organic food, high protein food, food that's medicated. I don't really recommend the medicated food, but medicated food, non-medicated food. All right, so just the normal layer pellets at Rural King are normally about $14 a bag. Right now they've been running $11.99 is what I've been getting them for. But just at $14 a bag, 8 bags, that's going to come to $112 for a year's worth of feed. So that brings our total up to $1,202 per year. Now we're not done yet. There's other supplies you gotta have. You gotta have waters, feeders. Now I don't really use feeders here. I have feeders available if I need them. I had them back when we used to keep chickens in the barn, but I don't use them here because I feed them on the ground because I like my chickens to scratch around and hunt for their food because that's just kind of how they would naturally do it anyway, just kind of scratch around for their food. So I throw their food on the ground. But your situation, you might need to use a feeder. You might need waters. So waters, and I recommend the metal ones if you get them. A metal water fountain would be $13 roughly. The metal feeders, you're looking at about $25. That brings your total up to $12.40. You're still not done yet. Oyster shells, very important to chicken's diet. You say, well, in the woods they normally wouldn't have oyster shells. No, but they would have nutrients in the food that they already are getting. And these oyster shells help with their eggs. It gives them calcium and stuff, which helps with the hardness of the shells. So it's nice to have oyster shells on hand at all times. So you can get a 50-pound bag of oyster shells, going to run you around 16 bucks. Grit. Now, if you keep your chickens outside, you really won't need to grit. But if you keep them locked up all the time, yes, you need grit, because that helps them with the breakdown in the crop and everything. So grit's going to run you about 12 bucks. All right, so that brings it total to $1,268. And I'm just going to go ahead and round that up to $1,300, because I'm sure there's something in that categories that I've forgotten. You know, excuse me, allergies. But and there's sometimes things just come up you got to pay extra money for. So I'm just going to round that up to $1,300. So to start off with 6 chickens, you can expect to pay about $1,300 starting fresh, never grown chickens before. $1,300 for a year to get from little tiny chicks to these guys behind me. So you can get a basket of these. Now, the $7 for a carton of eggs still sound bad? Yeah, they're still fun. Last year's total was $1,303. This year's was $1,300, so about the same. So that might cause a lot of you be looking into the idea of getting chicks and raising your own, so you can make your own eggs at home and stuff. That's chick. So it gets up to the point of what these are behind me, just so you can get a whole basket of eggs. I have a basket sitting over there, but I made it out of my reach. Let's do this stronger again. So let me break down the cost for you. So
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
other Siri going off.